I saw in your beady eye that you meant to. I thought I'd just as soon be here first.
Bentley says she's out.
Yes. Are you going to wait?
Certainly.
Then I will too.
Oh, that'll be very nice.
Your words are cordial, but your tone is slightly frigid, my dear.
I don't know what you mean by that, Mother.
My dear, we've known each other a great many years, haven't we? More than we always find it convenient to mention.
Not at all. I'm 32. I'm not the least ashamed of my age. Constance is 36.
Yet we still find it worthwhile to be a trifle disingenuous with one another. Our sex takes a natural pleasure in dissimulation.
I don't think anyone can accuse me of not being frank.
Oh, frankness, of course, is the pose of the moment. It is often a very effective screen for one's thoughts.
I think you're being plainly disagreeable to me, Mother.
I think, on the other hand, you're being inclined to be more than foolish.
Because I want to tell Constance something she ought to know.
Ah, I was right then. And it's to tell her you've broken an engagement and left 3 wretched people to play cutthroat.
It is.
And may I ask why you think Constance ought to know?
Why? Why? Well, that's one of those questions that really don't need answering.
I've always noticed the questions that really don't need answering are the most difficult to answer.
It isn't at all difficult to answer. She ought to know the truth because it's the truth.
Well, of course, truth is all very well. But before one tells it, one should be quite sure one does so for the advantage of the person who hears it, rather than for one's own self-satisfaction.
Mother, Constance is a very unhappy person.
Oh, nonsense. She eats well, sleeps well, dresses well, and she comes in weight. No woman could be unhappy under those circumstances.
Of course, if you won't understand, it's no use my trying to make you. You're a darling, but you're the most unnatural mother. Your attitude simply amazes me.
Barbara, how very nice to see you.
But Bentley told me you were here and Constance was out. What are you doing?
Bickering.
What about?
Constance.
I'm glad you've come, Barbara. Did you know that John was having an affair with Marie-Louise?
I hate giving a straight answer to a straight question.
I suppose everyone knows, but how long have you known? They say it's been going on for months. I can't think how it is we've only just heard it.
Well, it speaks very well for human nature. With the masses of dear friends we have, it's only today that one of them broke the news to us.
Perhaps the dear friend only heard it this morning.
At first, I refused to believe it.
Only quite quiet at first, darling. You surrendered to the evidence with an outraged alacrity that took my breath away.
Of course, I put 2 and 2 together. After the first shock, I understood everything. I'm only astonished it never occurred to me before.
Are you very much upset, Mrs. Cobb?
Oh, not a bit. I was brought up by a very strict mother to believe all men were naturally wicked. I'm never surprised at what they do and seldom upset.
Mother has been simply maddening. She treated it as though it didn't matter a row of pins.
Constance and John have been married for 15 years. John is a very agreeable man. I've often wondered if he were any more faithful to his wife than most husbands. But as it's really no concern of mine, I didn't let my mind dwell on it.
Is Constance your daughter, or is she not your
You
daughter?
certainly have a passion for straight questions, my dear. The answer is yes.
And are you prepared to sit there quietly and let her husband grossly deceive her with her most intimate friend?
So long as she doesn't know, I don't think she's any the worse for it. Marie-Louise is a nice little thing. Silly, of course, but that's what men like.
Did you ever hear a respectable woman, and Mother is respectable, talk like that?
You think something ought to be done about it?
I am determined that something shall be done about it.
Oh, my dear, I'm equally determined the one thing you shan't do is to tell Constance.
Is that what you want to do?
Somebody ought to tell her. If Mother won't, I must.
I'm extremely fond of Constance. Of course, I've known for a long time what was going on. I'd be dreadfully worried.
John has put her into an odious position. No man has the right to humiliate his wife as he has humiliated Constance. He's made her perfectly ridiculous.
My dear, if women were ridiculous because their husbands were unfaithful to them, there would surely be a great deal more merriment in the world than there is.
You know they were lunching together today.
Oh, we hadn't heard that, but they were dining together the night before last.
Well, we know what they had to eat for dinner. Do you know what they had to eat for lunch?
Mother,
She seemed rather uppish about the lunch.
you have no sense of decency, Mother.
Oh, my dear, decency died with dear Queen Victoria.
Surely you can't approve of John having an open and flagrant intrigue with Constance's greatest friend.
It may be with advancing years my arteries have hardened, but I can attach no particular importance to the philandering of men. John is a very hard-working surgeon. If he likes to lunch and dine with a pretty woman now and then, I don't think he's much to blame. It must be very boring to sit opposite the same woman for 3 meals a day, 7 days a week. I myself am a little bored sitting opposite Martha at the dinner table, and men can't stand boredom as well as women.
Oh, I'm sure I'm very much obliged to you, Mother.
But they're not only lunching and dining together.
Oh, my dear, you fear the worst?
I know the worst.
I always think that's such a comfort. With closed doors and no one listening to us, so long as a man is kind and civil to his wife, do you blame him very much if he strays occasionally from the narrow path of virtue?
Do you mean to say that you attach no importance to husbands and wives keeping their marriage vows?
I think wives should.
But that's grossly unfair. Why should they any more than men?
Because on the whole they like it. We're naturally faithful creatures, and we're faithful because we have no particular desire to be anything else.
I wonder.
Oh, my dear, you are a widow and perfectly free. Have you really had any great desire to do anything the world might say you shouldn't?
I have my business. When you work hard 8 hours a day, you don't much want to be bothered with love.
Oh, but a man about the house is often quite useful. It's very nice to have someone to tell you you're quite right, when you know in your heart you're quite wrong.
By the way, how is your business?
Oh, growing by leaps and bounds. As a matter of fact, I came here today to ask Constance if she'd like to come in with me.
Why should she? John earns plenty of money.
Well, I thought if things came to a crisis, she might like to know that she has me to turn to.
You want them to come to a crisis too?
No, of course not, but you know they can't go on like this. It's a miracle that Constance hasn't heard yet.
Well, I hope she'll find out as quickly as possible. I still think it's Mother's duty to tell
Which I
her.
have no intention of doing.
And if Mother won't, I think I ought.
Which I have no intention of permitting.
Her position is intolerable. He's humiliated her beyond endurance. I have no words to express my opinion of Marie-Louise, and the first time I see her, I shall tell her exactly what I think of her. She's a horrid, ungrateful, mean, and contemptible little cat.
Anyway, I thought it would be a comfort for Constance to know that if anything happened, that she has me to turn to.
But John would make her a handsome allowance. He's a very generous man.
Do you think Constance would accept it?
Martha's quite right. No woman under the circumstances would take a penny of his money.
Oh, that's what she'd say. She'd take her lawyer made the best arrangements he could. Few men realize with what ingenuity women can combine the disinterested gesture with an eye to the main chance.
You're rather cynical, aren't you, Mrs. Collins?
Oh, I hope not. But when women are alone together, I don't see why they shouldn't tell the truth now and then. It makes a rest from the weary round of pretending to be something we quite well know we're not.
Well, I'm not aware that I've ever pretended to be anything I wasn't.
I dare say not, my dear, but then I always thought you were a little stupid. You take after your dear father.